Hello, and welcome to the C3 Method podcast with your host, Robert Polenic. Our goal is to educate you on everything health and fitness related with a clear, concise, and customized approach. We want you to know what you need to know and how to apply it in a way that fits you best. Today's podcast is number 2290, and we're going to discuss how to track a contest prep diet. Currently prepping a few clients for shows, which is the norm. So not sure why I introed that way. But one of the clients specifically, they're about 16 weeks away from their contest, and they had asked some questions that I thought would be fun to share in today's podcast. One of the questions they asked was if I could give them an idea of what their weight is going to do over these next 16 weeks. And then what you'll find out is I'm going to have, I know it's going to go down, but we can't really predict in what way and in what pattern. So then what do we do? So I want to talk about that because often people will have this question. It's not even like first-time competitors. It's people who've even competed multiple times. They're like, I weigh this at this date. What do you think I'm going to weigh on stage? And I'm like, I don't know. If we had a DEXA scan done, I can have an idea of what your lean mass is going to be, and I can get you a decent guess. I can also just look at people now if they send photos and have a pretty good idea. I've been doing this forever. I have, oh my gosh, well over 100 people have done aesthetic competitions of how people get IFBB pro cards, natural pro cards. I've been working with people since I was 16. I'm 41. So I've been doing it for 25 years. So at this point, I can look at somebody and say, you're probably going to lose X, and we're going to be around, this weight. So for this client, they're around 155-ish pounds. They're likely going to need to be probably in the mid-130s. So we got about 20 pounds to lose in 16 weeks. That can sound like a lot, but it's not, because they're going to lose a lot of water weight at the beginning, and they're going to lose a lot of water weight at the end. So we're going to see some kind of significant drops at the beginning and the end. And then in the middle, it's going to feel like nothing's happening. And that's normal. It does get really hard to drop weight towards the end of a contest prep because a lot of water variance is now normalized. Normally during contest prep, you're wanting to minimize variance in pretty much everything you're doing. You're going to have pretty consistent foods, which means pretty consistent meals all day, every day. So consistent calories from day to day, consistent sodium from day to day, consistent carbohydrates from day to day, and consistent hydration. We're going to be managing our hydration, our sodium, and our carbohydrates. The reason why I'm saying those three specifically is they relate to glycogen. Glycogen is when our body stores carbohydrates in our muscles for energy. It can only form glycogen by pairing the carbohydrate with sodium and water. When it does that, you're now storing the water in your muscles, and that's going to make you weigh more. It also kind of fills out the muscles, which is fun, and there's something we can use to manipulate to make somebody look fuller versus not as full, and there's variances to whether you're lean or not lean, whether that would make you look like dry and hard or not. But the variance in glycogen is going to vary how much somebody weighs due to the water that is stored within their muscles related to the glycogen. Now, if you change your hydration, that'll change the water that's stored. If you keep hydration the same, but you change your food selections, which changes sodium, that'll change how much water is stored. If you keep your sodium the same, you keep your hydration the same, but you eat less or more carbs, that'll change how much glycogen you're forming, and that'll change how much water is stored in the muscles, and that'll change how much you weigh. So when people have more variance in fluid intake, more variance in food choices, which changes sodium, and then more variance in carbohydrate intake, they're going to have more variance in what they weigh. So they're going to see more day-to-day fluctuations. When we have somebody in a contest prep, those things are pretty much normalized. They're very consistent, along with like activity being consistent, daily step count, how much work, like what they do in their workouts and when they work out, those are usually consistent. There's a lot of consistency. So you're going to not see as much random fluctuations. Therefore, the scale changes are going to be more indicative of fat loss. And fat comes off at a very slow, annoyingly slow pace. So therefore, for you to make a pound or a pound and a half progress in 1 week is significant. So you put a lot of work in, and maybe in the whole week you only lose 1.2 pounds. And that might be significantly less because maybe in the first 2 weeks you lost 8. So 1.2 can be very depressing, but it's actually very significant because it's more indicative of actual fat change, not just water weight change with who knows what percentage of water weight versus fat change. So the middle part of a diet can be more frustrating because the rate of change seems to be slower. The significance, the difference of the change seems to be slower and smaller. So if we look at only weight alone, it can be a very depressing process. So therefore, what I told this client was, let's look at something else. And I wanted to give her something to be more proactive with in regards to the data that we're tracking. This is going to give her something every single day to do, a culmination of activities at the end of the week. And then she's going to have a more clear picture of what exactly is happening, where she's going, what progress she's made. It's going to lessen a lot of the unknowns, which then lessens her anxiety. It's going to give her a little more stuff to do. She's going to have some work to do and some numbers to track, but I'm going to help by backing that up. But then also, this is a type A personality. They want to have control. They want to be doing stuff. So this actually helps them lessen their anxiety by having a good idea of what should I be tracking rather than just staring at the scale, every morning and say, why the hell haven't you moved? So I wanted to share what we're going to be doing. Now, I gave her a calorie range that I want her to be within. It's going to make sure the top of the range is at least an appropriate deficit that's going to drive some change. The bottom of the range this is too much of a deficit. We don't want to go anything below this. So we know that there's a range that is going to drive fat loss. If we're lower in the range, we get more fat loss, but we get kind of crappy daily energy and might start to get kind of like hunger cravings. If we're high in the range all the time, we're going to make progress, but not great progress. It's kind of like slow progress. What I want her to do is to be able to choose where in that range she is per day. This allows her, maybe she pushes really hard for 2 days, she can come up in the range, have a recovery day, but still know she's losing fat. Or she has like a lot of stress going on, crazy day at work, maybe like something happened and she couldn't eat the food she was supposed to eat, so she had to eat something at work. That threw her numbers off, so she can modify dinner and still squeak under her range for the day, and she would know that it's not a lost day because she's still within the range. So there's a lot of allowance that we have when we have a range. For her specifically, and this will be different for every single client, her specific range is 1,400 to 1,800 calories. And I'm actually simplifying. There's a couple elements here I'm not going to share because it makes it too complicated. I want to share the premise. So the premise is we're going to be working between 1,400 to 1,800 calories. Then what I want her to do is every day track what you eat, how many calories you eat. So I gave her an example of, say she had a day where she had 1,450, so 1,450 calories. So again, the range is 1,400 to 1,800, and she ate 1,450. So that's really low in the range. What I want her to do is to track the deficit for the day. We're going to track the daily deficit referenced off of the top of the range, the 1,800. So we know we can go up to 1,800. If we ate at 1,800, we would consider that a zero deficit. Now, 1,800 isn't her maintenance calories. It's just the top of what I believe to be worthwhile deficit-wise. So we're going to treat that as net zero. Anything she eats under 1,800 is going to be a deficit. So for that day, it would be a 350 calorie deficit. Maybe the next day she eats at 1,650. That's only a 150 calorie deficit. So she adds the 350 and the 150, and now she's at a 500 calorie deficit across 2 days. She's going to do that for the whole week. Now for her, we're going to go Saturday to Saturday because her show's on a Saturday. So we're going to set our weekly schedule by Saturday to Saturday, not like Monday to Sunday. We're not going to do a calendar week. We're going to do basically a competition week, Saturday to Saturday. She's going to track the deficit that she builds up over the week. Maybe she builds up to a 2,000 calorie deficit. And we find that at a 2,000 calorie deficit, plus the calories she's burning with exercise and daily step count, we find out that equates to about 1 to 1.2 pounds of fat loss. Her energy was manageable. It wasn't great, wasn't horrible. She was definitely hungry for her meals. She was okay. I might say, okay, well, if we're kind of okay, let's just try to repeat that this next week. We're not going to push too much because we don't want to get you too cravings or too low of energy and burn out. Let's just repeat around a 2,000 calorie deficit. Maybe we do that again the next week. And then next week she's like, you know what, I had better energy. I kind of feeling fired up. I really want to push. and we lost about another 1 to 1.2 pounds. And I would say, oh, you know what? If you have the capacity, instead of a 2,000 calorie deficit, like why don't we try to aim for a 2,200 or 2,300? And now all of a sudden, the following week, we lose 1.3 or 1.4 pounds. So what we're going to do is we're going to track a daily calorie deficit, add that up for a weekly deficit. We're going to relate the weekly deficit to how much weight we lost and then how we felt. And then balancing the weight we need to be losing and the feelings that we can manage, we're going to push that deficit as hard as we can. That's going to help her lose body fat and give her a ton of data to track, where every single day she feels like she has a purpose. Every single week she gets to see the culmination of her daily efforts. And then every month we can add up and see, okay, how much progress did we make over these 4 weeks? We can then use that as a predictive marker for the next 4 weeks. Is that going to put us where we need to be in 4 weeks from now? So it starts to give us a lot of data, gives us a lot of active efforts, and it's going to lessen a lot of anxiety. Along with that, we're also going to track her daily protein, make sure she has a minimum protein need. So for people who lift weights on a regular basis, you're looking at usually 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight, depending on the intensity of the exercise and muscle mass and hormonal support and whatnot they might have. So we're going to set a protein range in like a day, a minimum. So she's going to make sure she gets that every single day. We're not adding that up. Just don't miss that. Just get that in. And then what we're also going to do is every week she's going to report the daily calories, the daily deficit, the total deficit for the week. We're also going to track our weight. We're going to track our weight every single day so we can see, okay, where was it throughout the week? So maybe Saturday to Saturday, on a Saturday morning, we wake up. So maybe last Saturday she was 156. This Saturday she's 155. But we saw on Thursday and Friday, she was at 154.2 or 154.3. And then she's like, oh, Friday night, like I only had 5.5 hours of sleep, not my normal amount of sleep, so I woke up a little heavier. We would know, oh, okay, well, if she would have got a full night's sleep, she probably would have had to pee a little bit more and she'd be a little bit lighter and she'd have more so matched Thursday and Friday. So by having daily weights, it lets us know really where are we at over the trend of the week, not just a snapshot of a day when we don't know where that is in relation to the other days. So that's going to be her job for me, because I do this for clients all the time. I'm just basically teaching her how to do it, is daily calories, and that's going to give us a daily deficit. We then will track daily protein just to make sure we're on track with that. We report a weekly deficit. We then have our weights every single day. And again, as I said, we're going to modify based on the rate of weight loss, and then also how do we feel throughout the week? Do we feel like we have good energy performance? Do we have just good craving control? Was it a manageable feeling? If we felt like crap, maybe we're going to back off for a week and then push for a couple weeks after that. If we felt great, maybe we have room to push a little harder. So these are the components that we would track on a contest prep diet that allows you to feel confident with what you're doing and how you can manipulate what you're getting in a more active manner. This is going to reduce a lot of anxiety, and this then helps us kind of see what the weight is doing, and then we can have a sense of being able to push and manipulate that a little bit if we need to. It is really hard to predict what's going to happen with body weight in regards to a full length of a prep. You say at least 8, maybe 12, 16, even 20 weeks. You know initially you're going to lose a lot. It's going to be grindy in the middle, and then maybe at the very end we might lose a little bit more if we do some water manipulations last week. But that's generally the trend. And then if you have a DEXA scan, something that tells you your lean muscle mass, you can have a decent idea of where you would be at that lean muscle mass at, say, 5% body fat, or like 7-8% body fat, depending on the class you're doing, whether it's bikini, wellness, figure, physique. If you're men's physique, men's classic physique, bodybuilding, you're going to aim for different body fat percentages. So you can have some idea, but you're not going to be able to say like, yes, every single week, for 20 weeks, every week I'm going to lose 1 pound. Hell no, that's not going to happen. So it's going to be variable because there's just so many variables in life that relate to how much we weigh. So that gives you at least an idea of how we would structure this. If you want help with being able to create this for yourself and learn how to manage this, just reach out to our website, which is c3method.com. The 3 is spelled out THREE So CTHREE method.com. You can also email me at c3method@gmail.com. And just let me know if you're interested. I'll help you set this all up. Maybe take you through a month or two or whatever you want, teach you how to do it, and then you can run with it on your own, or we can keep doing it if you want the accountability and continuing to ask questions and learn along the way. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you find it helpful. If you do, please share the podcast with other people so that way more people can know about it, the more people will be helped by it. And then if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name C3 Method. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.